Thank you to William over at William's Library for suggesting this video. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description down below. But on my last week's weekly reading vlog, William noted that I had recently just finished off two books which I had been slowly chipping away at for over a year. That being The Complete Stories of Oz and The Histories by Herodotus, and both of these I've reviewed recently on this channel. And William noted, he said, now that you've finished off two books that you've been reading for over a year, maybe it's time to go back and update everybody on your currently reading list, the books that you're currently reading. Now, I don't know if this is of interest to anyone else but me and I guess William, but I thought, why not? It'd be a fun little video to make, just a quick update on my currently reading list. Now, if anyone is interested, I do keep track of this on the blog. Pardon the mess in this apartment. But if you go over to my blog, and I'll leave a link in the description down below, and if you scroll down, I do have currently reading here where I have all the books I'm currently reading. Although, I should note that I keep a very flexible definition of currently reading. Some of these books I haven't touched for over a year. This one here is a perfect example. Started it in 2018. I started it. I stopped reading it. I started it again. I stopped reading it. At the moment, I don't think I've read anything from this book for well over a year. Like, it's been 2 years now. 3 years now. So I'm not really currently reading it by any reasonable definition of that word. But what I mean when it's still on the currently reading list is that I haven't admitted to myself yet that I've abandoned it. So if I do ever admit to myself that I'm never going to finish this book, it gets moved over to my abandoned book index. And these are the books where I say, okay, it's time to admit that I am not going to finish reading this book. But if I hold out any hope that I might someday return and finish up the books, it stays here. Now, I guess for some of you on BookTube, the more prolific readers on BookTube, this is going to seem a little bit silly to have all these books here that maybe other people could finish off in an afternoon, which I just have lingering here for years. But I'm one of the slow readers on BookTube for a variety of reasons. You know, my words per minute speed is probably a little bit slower than average. I also get easily distracted, fighting a digital addiction in which I am more prone to go to Twitter or YouTube than to actually read. A whole host of reasons, but suffice it to say, it takes me a while to get through a book, and that's part of the reason why this list gets so long. Is I'll get halfway through a book, and it'll be a couple months or something because I'm a slow reader, and then I'll get bored by it and I'll switch to something else. So yeah, that's just a little bit of insight into my psyche. But let's take a tour of these books, which I have laid out over here. Again, pardon the mess in the apartment. These are the books that I'm currently reading. Now, actually, there's one book over here, Tarzan of the Apes, which I actually just finished this past week. So I'm not reading this, but I haven't yet made my review of it yet. So I finished reading it. It's just still laying around because the review is still pending. I'm going to go back through it before I write the review. But yeah, a lot of the books that I am stalling out on have to do with professional development. In fact, these four over here. So I work as an English teacher in Vietnam, and have been doing it for a number of years. So I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm no longer just doing it as a backpacker, but trying to be serious about my profession and try and read professional development. I used to, before having kids, and before getting so busy at work, I used to be really good at reading one book a month for professional development. But I've completely stalled out on it now. And to be perfectly honest, at this moment, I've really lost motivation. The little time I get to read in a day, I much prefer to do pleasure reading rather than books for professional development. But yeah, let's go through these here. Teaching Speaking, a Holistic Approach by Christine C.M. Go and Ann Burns. Now, you'll have to pardon the fact that this is a photocopied copy here. This is quite common in Vietnam and other parts of Southeast Asia. I took this from the school library at the school I was working at. Somebody else had already read it. That's their highlights, not mine. This book had been highly recommended to me by my manager at the time as an excellent book for the teaching of speaking. Speaking can be something that's a little bit difficult to effectively teach in an English language classroom. Other than just kind of giving the students practice, saying like, talk about this, but how do you actually teach them to be better speakers? Well, my manager recommended this book to me as something that breaks down exactly the process of how you teach speaking. And I made a couple attempts to get through this book. And I don't think I got past 100 pages each time. Started it, got close to 100 pages, stopped reading it because I had other stuff on my plate, started it up again, stopped reading it. Yeah. I'm at the point now where if I did come back to this, I'd have to start over again at page 1, which I've done a couple of times now. But I haven't yet admitted to myself that I'm giving up on this book completely. I still do have ambitions to come back to it one day. The Encyclopedia of the English Language, 2nd edition by David Crystal. Now, this is not directly tied to language teaching. This is just more linguistics in general. And David Crystal writes linguistics for the general audience. This is a gorgeous, fully illustrated book, which I was lucky enough to come into when the school library at the school I'm working with got shut down and teachers were free to take the books home. Look at all these illustrations. How much would this have cost to buy this new? I don't know. Unfortunately, it's gotten a little bit of wear and tear in my house because the toddler kept grabbing the book. She was just fascinated by all the pictures and wanted to look through it and ripped it a couple times. This page here has been repaired by tape, as happened to a few of the books in our house since the addition of children. But yeah, it amazes me that this whole book is just by one man, David Crystal. There's so many different topics here. The depth of his knowledge in order to write this whole book by himself. The way it's laid out is each spread is on a different topic. So this is all about consonants. This is all about hyponyms. It's all about etymology. And you can see with all the illustrations and stuff like that, it looks like a magazine. So I had this idea that I would just kind of read one section a day, maybe in the morning when I was slowly waking up with coffee. This was back in the days when I worked afternoons. And it would just be some light linguistic reading to start my day off. But the pictures are deceptive. It looks like it's just some light, breezy reading. But in actuality, the topics are a little bit heavy. So, some features of Old English grammar. Like, imagine trying to work through that first thing in the morning while you're still waking up with coffee. That being said, I did stick with it for a long time. I got all the way up to the section on taboos, which is, where is that section again? It's about a fourth of the way through the book. And then my schedule changed, and I no longer had free time in the mornings. And because of just how big this book is, I didn't want to lug it around with me to work and stuff like that. So I've stalled out on it now for, I think, 2 years, but do have ambitions of returning to it someday. Then more recently, the English grammar book, which I had been reading this past year, but I stalled out on it. I went through a phase where I was interested in grammar. I go through these phases periodically. But with my limited reading time right now, I don't know. I've lost interest in it. This one, those other two have been years since I picked them up. This one has only been a few months now. And then teaching reading skills in a foreign language. Now, this one I started just within the past 3 or 4 months, and made good progress on it for a while, but then got busier at work and again lost interest in it. That's the problem with professional development reading, is it can be a little bit dry. So if you're feeling burnt out with stuff, like I have been recently, it's difficult to motivate yourself to go through this drier books. But this one I can't just keep on my shelves forever and ever and ever because it's a library book. I've already renewed it once. If I want to finish it before it's due again, I'll just have to push myself out of this malaise and get back into it so I can, or admit to myself that I'm abandoning it. But it's either way, there's a time limit coming up on this. So that's the professional development stuff. The Bible. Yeah, William, if he's watching this, will be able to identify with me stalling out on this one because he was also going through the reading project on the Bible, which he abandoned. He got further along than I did. I'm in the middle of Leviticus. Here's my bookmark here, which is just about all the religious regulations, purification of a woman after childbirth, how lepers get purified. Just so boring. It's only the third book of the Bible, up to Leviticus 12 at the moment. Oh, no, sorry, 13. So I have definitely stalled out on this one. I haven't read this for months, but am not going to abandon this just yet. I want to stick with this, and maybe the reading the Bible will be a long-term project. I'll read it. I won't finish it in a year or 2 years, but it'll be on my shelf as I slowly chip away at the books in it, come back to it, get tired of it, come back to it, get tired of it, but slowly read my way through it. At the moment, though, what I want to do is all these books I've just mentioned, I don't have any plans to get back to them anytime soon. What I want to do is just streamline my reading list, where I'm only focusing on one book. And that book at the moment is The Peloponnesian War by Donald Kagan, which I just started earlier this week. Made a started video referencing it. Sorry, referencing it is the wrong word. Made a started video where I announced that I was starting it earlier this week. Finding it very interesting so far. And I think this is my plan for the next few weeks, is just to focus on this and not to try and juggle more than one book for a while. Yeah. King Viet 123, I'm probably mispronouncing that. This is a language textbook. I was doing this at the beginning of the year and then got busy and stopped doing it. I have actually kept up with daily Vietnamese studies this whole year to tout my accomplishments on Duolingo and Quizlet. So I do a set of lessons on Duolingo every day. I review the vocabulary on Quizlet every day, and I've managed to keep that up for the whole year so far, up to like a 300-day streak at the moment. But I was going to supplement that with also working my way through a more traditional textbook, and that's I think ever since February or March I've not made progress on this, but I'm planning to get back to it at some point to put this back into my routine. And then the comic books. These actually aren't on my currently reading list because comic books get a little bit of a different classification. Now, it's embarrassing to admit you've stalled out on a comic book, but it's been several weeks now where I haven't yet finished Prisoners of the Sun by Tintin. I mean, I was almost done with it. I think I'm at the point now where I just need to go back to the beginning and read the whole thing through. My schedule changed. I used to be working afternoons. Now I'm working mornings. Used to be I had more time in the night to just read comic books and unwind after the kids went to bed. But now that I'm working mornings, I just don't have any. Don't have those long nights anymore. You know, when the kids go to bed, I'm exhausted and behind on sleep. Flash Gordon is another comic book I've been slowly working my way through, although you can see that this comic book is a little bit more text heavy, so there's a little bit more meat here. I've been doing a fairly good job of reading a little bit of this every week, but I still am still probably working through this much more slowly than a normal person would take to read a comic book, but what can I say? So, those are the books on my currently reading list. Thanks to William for the suggestion. I don't know if this was of interest to anyone else but me, but this channel has always been self-indulgent. It's my hobby. Maybe I might enjoy doing this once every 6 months, just to kind of clear the air on what's still on my currently reading list. But yeah, that's all for now.